over in the pages of Marvel Comics, the publisher just went ahead and dropped their full slate of solicitations advertising comic books on sale in December, with a few titles set to be released over in January. December really looks to be a fun month over at the House of Ideas, with a big relaunch planned over for the character of Moon Knight. It's going to be really interesting to see if this title is going to go ahead and switch protagonists. If that wasn't intriguing enough here, the Fall of X miniseries are also coming to an end over in December. We're going to go ahead and take a look at Uncanny Avengers, and we're also going to check in on what the last steps over in the Genesis War are over in XMen Red. Plus, we're also going to take a look at what the Immortal Thor has planned for several different Thor protagonists. My name is Araco Braddock, and today, let's go ahead and dive into 5 of my most anticipated comic book series over from Marvel in the month of December. Before we get deeper into the video, I want to encourage you to support our channel by liking this video and subscribing to the channel as well. And without further ado here, let's go ahead and preview our first comic book issue. This is Vengeance of the Moon Knight, issue 1, written over from Jed MacKay, featuring art from Alessandro Cappuccio. We also have this gorgeous cover up on the screen coming in directly over from David Finch. Clad in the black of mourning, the Midnight Mission remains. But who is left to keep the faith? And how have they been changed by the Black Spectre's master stroke? The next chapter of Moon Knight starts here as the congregants of the Midnight Mission pick up the pieces and carry on the mission, and find themselves faced with a mysterious new enemy in eerily familiar vestments. I really think the Vengeance of the Moon Knight is going to be really exciting because the creative team of Alessandro Cappuccio as well as Jed MacKay are sticking with this character. The lingering threat of the Black Spectre has been an interesting way to end this current run of Moon Knight, and I'm really intrigued to see if there's going to be a protagonist switch and what some of the plot mechanics are going to be like behind this upcoming launch over in Moon Knight. Artist Alessandro Cappuccio has really impressed me over in this series by depicting really noir art with a curvy line that I think really manages to capture the noir and nuance over in the Moon Knight property. I'm also equally as excited for this upcoming issue over in Amazing Spider-Man. This is chapter 40 of the series, written over from Zeb Wells, featuring art and cover from John Romita Jr. Battle lines are drawn, with Spidey and his crew being the only ones who can save all of New York City from the worst supercriminals to ever supercriminal. But is Tombstone on their side? And you won't believe your eyes reading the last page of the issue. I am really impressed with how Zeb Wells is able to flesh out the character of Tombstone. I think if you go back and check out some of the really early issues of Spider-Man, there's just a sense of gravitas that Wells is able to lend to this particular character. And I really also think that artist John Romita Jr. is able to complement how Zeb Wells writes Tombstone incredibly well by depicting him with a big and brash physique over in the comic book series. Really thrilled to see John Romita Jr. jump aboard the Amazing Spider-Man comic in time to depict this character of Tombstone in the midst of the gang war. Really curious to see how Peter and Tombstone stick together. I also want to go ahead and commend Marvel Comics for continuing this Amazing Spider-Man run over with Zeb Wells for a staggering 40 issues. I really hope that Wells is able to have a really long run on this title and introduce even more plot ideas in the near future here. All right, next up, let's take a look at a very controversial issue this month. This is Uncanny Avengers number 5. As you can see from the cover alone here, this book is really teasing the identity of the mysterious Captain Krakoa, who resurfaced very close to the Fall of X storyline over at Marvel Comics. Uncanny Avengers issue 5 is still written over from Gerry Duggan, featuring art and cover from Javier Garron. Captain Krakoa unmasked. So that is our solicit for the issue. This comic book is just relentlessly teasing the identity of Krakoa. Across the comic book internet, there's a ton of speculation that this individual could potentially be the Hydra Captain America. I do think that that would be a really fun way for Gerry Duggan to kind of switch up some of the recent continuity over at Marvel and really dive into the Avengers and X-Men side over in Marvel Comics. I really have high hopes for this identity reveal, and I hope that Marvel Comics is leading to something bigger with the Uncanny Avengers following what looks to be the last issue over in this miniseries. Finally, here, I just want to say that artist Javier Garron has lent an amazing sense of perspective over to this comic, and I think really does a fantastic job accommodating the really nuanced script coming over for Gerry Duggan. Very excited to see what Garron and Duggan have in store for the end of this volume of Uncanny Avengers. Next up, we have a look over at the latest issue of Immortal X-Men. I thought this was a particularly fun cover, showing some of the implications over for the way that the X-Men have greeted Mother Righteous into some of their circles here. Immortal X-Men 18 is still written over from Kieron Gillen, featuring art from Lucas Werneck with a cover over from Mark Brooks. Forever changes. Being immortal means nothing when you've run out of time. There's no past, there's no future, there's no way out. As mentioned before here, very excited to see how Kieron Gillen is able to write Mother Righteous as a character. We typically see her over in Nightcrawler comics like Legion of X, so I think it's a little bit subversive for Mother Righteous to head back into the pages of Immortal X-Men. Really excited to see what she has in store. Also, artist Lucas Werneck has just done a phenomenal job across issue after issue of the series in depicting the really nuanced and complicated tone that Kieron Gillen always lends over to his scripts. I'm so happy that he's still working over with Kieron Gillen on this really amazing and thought-provoking X-Men comic book series. Next up, we have a look over at XMen Red coming in from Marvel Comics. This is chapter 18 of the series, still written by Al Ewing, featuring artwork over from Yildiray Cinar. We also have a cover for the comic book series coming in over from Stefano Caselli. This is the end of the Genesis War. Final battle. Their armies have clashed and torn a world apart. Now finally, the two war leaders meet. Storm versus Genesis for the fate of the Red Planet. As the planet itself fights alongside them, will planet Arakko survive, and more? Is the secret dream of En Saba Nur about to come true? There's so many things I'm excited for over in this comic book issue here. I'm interested to see the last stages over in the Genesis War, and I also think the eclectic cast built up across X-Men Red is so intriguing right now with individuals like John Ironfire and the Fisher King. Really like the fact that this book is also the home of Roberto da Costa, and we're getting a return over from Weaponless Zen and Apocalypse over in this comic book issue. I am so thrilled to check out this upcoming issue of X-Men Red, and I've been so happy with this series across the runtime here. I always like to go ahead and include one special bonus issue because it's hard to fit just 5 picks into Marvel's full slate of solicits. This month, I ended up going with the upcoming issue of Immortal Thor, teasing this upcoming Thor core. Of course, Immortal Thor issue 5 is still written over from Al Ewing, featuring artwork from Martin Coccolo, and we have this gorgeous cover introducing the Thor core over from Alex Ross. Tauranos has returned, and to face him, the king of Asgard has gathered his army. But if even an army of storms could not stop the elder god of thunder, what then? This is the story of the immortal Thor and the battle that will define him. I am really interested to see where Al Ewing is headed over with Tauranos. And while I was a little bit lukewarm over on the debut issue of Immortal Thor, I think there is so much potential in this property. I really like the optimistic tone that writer Al Ewing has lent to the Immortal Thor, and think that it makes this series stand out from comic books like Immortal Hulk, as well as Immortal X-Men, being a much more optimistic series, at least so far in the publication of the comic book. I also thought that some of the characters teased over on this cover were really enticing, with individuals like Beta Ray Bill and Storm over on the comic book issue. In particular, I am such a big fan of the comic book run of Thor over from Jason Aaron and Russell Dauterman. I am so thrilled to see that Jane Foster may have an opportunity to return over to the guise of Thor in this upcoming series as well. So I think there's some excellent comics coming in over from Marvel in the month of December, with some titles like Vengeance of the Moon Knight slipping into January. A lot of these books are looking incredibly promising, and I'm also really excited to see where the X-Men are headed to next, with so many of those miniseries winding down in the month of December. I want to know from you, which of these comics are you most looking forward to? Did I forget to add your favorite series on this list? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for coming to check out our top 5 most anticipated comics over for the month of December. And we'll be back to see what Marvel Comics has in store in January. And of course, we will also be reviewing all of these titles in the month of December as well. Thank you so much for coming to check out our video, and we'll be back to talk Marvel Comics in the near future. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.